So my name is Steve, and I am a drug addict in recovery. I have a little over 4 years clean, and today me and my family are here to share our story. So I think my story is pretty ordinary, very common. I had an injury in my early 20s that was pain pills were prescribed at that point. And I started taking them as prescribed, and slowly over time it progressed to where I needed them to function. One thing led to another. Over time, so doctors would no longer write me prescriptions, so then I started buying drugs off the street and started getting different dealers. I was spending about $100 a day on drugs.
Wow.
Meanwhile, my wife and kids are all at home, and we're trying to live a normal life, do normal things. I have a job. At that point, I was running a company, and we're going to church, and everything on the outside looked picture perfect, and everything on the inside was falling apart. I was stealing money from my wife and kids. When you're going through $100 a day, you have to that you're trying to hide. You have to get creative. So the disease progressively got worse and worse. My wife and I were fighting all the time, yelling and screaming at each other. She knew, I had a serious problem with drugs. We tried a bunch of different kind of half-hearted programs, some outpatient things, some addiction recovery programs, and things like that, and nothing seemed to work. And for me, kind of the biggest change that came was I was of this mindset that I needed to get myself right to go to God. Before anything else, I had to get myself right. Well, the problem with that is I could never get myself right without God. So the mindset that I have today is I have to go to God to get myself right. And that changed everything. That changed everything. I knew that God was there. I knew that He worked. That He could do miracles, and that wasn't happening in my life. So in my mind, where was the problem? It was really easy. It was with me. And so that just separated me further and further from God. And as that happened, my wife and I, we separated further and further apart from each other. I separated myself from my kids. I isolated myself. What my life looked like was I was running between lies. I was lying at home where I was going. I was lying to my employer where I was, why I had to leave work so often. And most of the time I was up meeting someone in Ogden to buy drugs. And what happened is I had to hit a rock bottom. I got fired from my job for stealing from my employer, stole some money from him. And I remember I kind of just tried to, as a last ditch effort, to hold on to my job. I would say, hey, I'm an addict, I need help. And they agreed, and they sent me out the door. So I was certain at that point that life was over. I got fired about 1 o'clock. I went and drove around in my car by myself and cried and felt just a despair that I'd never felt before in my life, because I was sure when I went home and told my wife that she was going to say, you need to hit the road. And I wouldn't have blamed her. That wouldn't have been a bad decision. Gratefully she didn't. And I told her that I'd gotten fired and why I had gotten fired. And just with the calmness and peace in her voice, she said, you know what this means, right? And I didn't. She said, you need to go get some real help. And so at that point, I was at the point of what they call surrender, to where I was willing to do whatever was needed just to try and save my marriage and my family. And I went and checked myself in. Well, we went and checked me into a 2-month inpatient program. I didn't live at home for almost 6 months. After the inpatient program, I went and lived in a sober living facility, continued with outpatient. But the amazing part is through this time, and I think what's really unique about our story, up to this point I know there are millions of people with the same story. What I think is really unique here is, at that point when I got into recovery, it wasn't just me getting into recovery. It was my whole family. It was my wife getting into Al-Anon, my kids getting into Alateen. And so all of us now, through something that I wouldn't have wished on my worst enemy, people would say, hey, one day this will be a blessing and you'll be able to bless lives of other people. I'd look at them and think, how dare you say that? How dare you say that? I would not wish this curse on anyone. But today, I feel like our higher power has turned what was our greatest weakness as a family into our greatest strength. Relationship with God today, my personal relationship, far greater. My God is awesome. The God I believe in and love today, he is absolutely awesome. He understands me. And he's there for me. And that huge shift, it happened over time to where, man, if I know something's going wrong with me, the first thing I've got to do is turn to God for his help. And that's what's been so amazing about this, the AA program, Al-Anon and Alateen, is it not only has strengthened our relationship as a family, but it's strengthened each of our relationships with our higher power. And thankfully today we have a life in recovery that we still take day by day, one day at a time. And we do all we can to share our message like this.
All right. My name is Jamie. I'm Steve's wife. I'm the mother of 5 children. We have 5 kids together, 16 down to 2 years old. And we have lived, we've been married now almost 20 years. And 15 of those years was through addiction. I would say probably the first 5 years was, didn't feel like addiction. It just felt like a need for a lot of medications. The next 5 years was, we were aware that it was a problem. It was a pretty tough problem, but we for sure thought that we could overcome it without talking to anybody about it or telling anybody. We didn't feel like we needed to reach out to anybody. We thought we could just handle it completely on our own. We included our higher power. We included God in that, asking for help. And we have a very strong faith in God and a belief in his ability to perform miracles. So we thought that our family deserved this miracle and that this would be something we would just be able to easily overcome. Over the course of that next 5 years, we realized this wasn't going away. So the next 5 years looked a little differently for us. The addiction got stronger. The addiction got worse. It started taking over family more and more. It felt all-consuming at that point. It got so bad that I had to multiple times face this and think, what do we do with this in our family right now? Do we kick him out? Do we stick with this? Do we tough it out? Do we? How many people and doctors or facilities can we turn to without this going away? This doesn't seem to be leaving us, and just a true fear of what's going to happen to our family, what's going to come of us. Addiction caused me to feel crazy. I felt like I was just crazy. Or my life felt crazy. It felt like a very secretive, quiet crazy that was chaotic in our home that nobody else knew about. The disease of addiction caused me to feel like we needed to keep this quiet, keep it a secret, not share it with very many people. I only told less than, I could count them on one hand, how many people even knew that we were struggling so bad with this addiction. The disease of addiction made me feel like I was alone, like nobody else was experiencing anything like this. And to look at that feeling of hopelessness, and we got our miracle. The miracle didn't come as quick as I thought it would, and it definitely didn't look how I wanted it to come. I wanted that miracle to look like something different, but thankfully God knew better. God knew it was best.
Hi, I'm Riley, and my dad is Steve, and I just kind of wanted to share my point and my perspective on our family story. When my dad was going through addiction and everything, I remember when he first went into recovery, I was so mad. I was filled with so much anger and so much hate in my life. I was so mad at my dad, and I came up with this phrase in my mind of "how dare you?" And Dad, how dare you do this to my family? How dare you put us through this misery and watch us just suffer? Like, why can't you just stop? Mom, how dare you not leave Dad? How I would see you guys fighting and this is tearing us apart. Just leave him, just get us out of this. And then I turned to my higher power, to God, and I said, how dare you? How dare you put our family through this? What do we do to deserve this? And I was just filled with all this hate and this anger for everyone and everything. And as I realized that, I was able to think, okay, maybe God isn't doing this to us, but he's doing this for us. And as I had that mindset, and as I changed that thought, it turned this "how dare you" statement into this "thank you" statement. And then I was able to turn into, "Dad, thank you for being willing to go to treatment and to get help and to stay with us and not just turn off and do your own thing, but you're able to. You love us so much that you're willing to go get help. Mom, thank you for sticking with our dad and not leaving him, because now we're stronger than ever. And higher power, God, thank you so much for putting us through this, because what was able to turn from our greatest trial and our hardest thing in our life into our greatest miracle."
So, my name is Amelia, and my dad is an addict. And today I just wanted to share 3 of the main things that I realized that helped me through dealing with addiction of a family member. So the first one is sharing what you're going through with other people. I realized so much. I didn't realize this from the beginning, but later on I realized this, and it made it so much easier. I realized how much easier things were when you shared. When you share with other people what you're going through, it makes things so easy, and it just like releases the shame, and it helps you understand, and like you can work through your emotions way better than if you just keep it inside. And the second thing I learned is realizing that you're not alone. Realizing that you're not alone is a big part, because when you feel alone and when you think that you're the only one going through this, it can be really hard and you don't have anyone to turn to, and it's just like all stuck inside you. But if you realize that other people are going through the same thing, then you can turn to them and talk to them and like share your experiences and everything like that. And the third thing is finding the positive and like finding what you can learn out of it. 'Cause you can't take away your challenges, but you can view them differently. You can see like, what can I learn from this? Instead of like, how can I make this go away? You can see, what can I learn from this? And it can make it so much easier to go through your challenges when you realize that there's something you can learn from it, and it's not just there for a reason, so you can learn from it.
Hi, I'm Michael. I just want to kind of share a little bit about like the blessing of this. Now we are going to meetings, and like we're teaching a meeting, and I just Heavenly Father didn't put us through this because we did something wrong, but it's that we were willing to go through this so we could help other people